Hello and welcome back. So if you're just joining me, this is actually the last card in my fancy fold class. So be sure to go back and watch my first video with the other 2 cards in it, 3 cards in total. And I think this one is my favourite. So this is the one that that I made, the first design that I made of this, and this is called a quadruple Z fold. So as I mentioned in my last video, a lot of fancy fold cards are based on a Z fold. So as you can see, this is the main card base here, and it is a Z fold. Okay. And they've called it a quadruple because they've added these 4 strips to it there. But this is definitely my favourite. It is so gorgeous. So grab your class pack and let's get going. So with the other cards, I'm intended to not cut the DSP until ahead of time so that I could do it with you in class. But with this one, I had a mental block and I started cutting up the DSP, so I apologise for that. But let's start with, in your pack, the longest piece is your card base, and we need to score that. I also included your 4 strips of white cardstock, so you don't have to cut those, but we will have to score those. So let's get scoring. So for your card base, you are going to score it at, this is also in inches, this card. Oh, and I also need to say that a big shout out and thank you for this design to Sue Campfield. I got this design from. Okay, we're going to score at 1 3/4 inches. Then we're going to move it along to 3.5 inches. And that is all. Okay, that is all we need to score for the card base. So I'll just put that aside, and then we're going to get our 4 strips, and all of them are going to be scored at the same, exactly the same as above, as the card. So it's going to be 1 3/4. One 3/4 and 3.5. So do all of your white pieces. 1 3/4. Three and a half. One 3/4, 3.5. I always, when I'm cutting or scoring, doing any measurements, I always say it aloud, the measurement aloud to myself before I do it. 1 3/4. And 3.5. And that, for me, just lessens the chance of mistakes. Okay. Right, I think it's not all the cutting that we need to do, so we might do, while we've got the cutter out, just pull those scored pieces aside. All right, these other white pieces that I gave you are already cut to the right size, so they can be put aside. Now you need to decide, if you haven't already, what DSP you're going to use. And I am using this absolutely gorgeous one. This would have to be my favourite of the whole pack. So I wanted to use my favourite paper on my favourite card. So we're going to, I've already cut one strip. Let me just check my directions. Okay, I've already cut one strip at 4 1/4 inches by 1 3/4 inches. So I've already done that. So go ahead and do that. It's in your instructions, 4 1/4 inches by 1 3/4 inches. And it should be exactly the same as the piece of cardstock, white cardstock that is in your pack. They should be exactly the same measurement. And then we need to cut 4 strips. Now I've decided to, in my instructions I've said either the same pattern or a coordinating pattern. Now I've decided to have mine both the same. If I wanted to, I could flip that over and have the back side for the strips, or vice versa. I could have that one and like that. So you can see on this sample card, I used the same, and that's what I'm going to do again. Okay, so I've already cut one strip, and then I stopped and remembered that I was supposed to be cutting it on camera with you. 4 strips at 3 5/8 of an inch, so that is that way, 3 5/8. That measurement I think is a little bit off. 4/8 is half, so 5. Oh no, that's right. 5/8 is I've done it right. And then this measurement is 5/8 of an inch. So you're looking at, instead of half an inch, we want 5/8 of an inch. 4/8 is half. Go up 1, 2 little lines to 5/8. Okay. So that's already been cut the right width there at 3 5/8. Yes, just confirming that. So I now need 3 more strips at 5/8 of an inch wide. So there's my 4/8, which is half an inch, and I'll go up to the next 8 mark. 1, 2. Just bear with me for a second. My technology's just switched itself on my computer's. Looks like it's gone to sleep, so I just want to wake it up and make sure that I'm there. I'm where I should be. And there I am. Okie doke. Excellent. That's 3 and 1 more at 5/8 of an inch. Coolies. So there's my 4 strips. Put them to one side. Put that one. And I now need another strip of DSP. And I think I've already cut this one as well. Let's have a look. At 3/11/16, I'm really sorry about that. Just let me see if you're struggling with 11/16, 8/16 is 1/2 inch. So I went to the 1/2 inch mark, and the 16ths marks are the smallest of the lines, the smallest of the measurements. Okay, so if 8/16 is 1/2 inch, I just want to go one line more than that to bring it up to 11. No, sorry. So 8/16. So I go 9, 10, 11. So I've already cut that one. And by 4 1/4. 4 1/4. All right, so for this piece, I will be using the reverse side, which on my sample card is this backing inside piece here. Okay, so you could, if you prefer, use a piece of coordinating coloured cardstock, which I did for this one. And I actually embossed it so that there was still a bit of a pattern on it. But for this, I'm just going to use the reverse of that DSP pattern. All right, that is all the cutting that we need to do. So let's start assembling. This card might look really tricky and fancy, but honestly, once you've cut all the pieces, it is so super easy to put together. So once again, Z fold. So we're going on the score line that is furthest in. We're going to fold in, and then we're going to fold back on itself so that you get your Z fold like that. Okay. Next thing we need to do is, we need to fold all of our strips of white cardstock on those score lines. So the smaller, the side that where the scores are made, so you've got a long piece here that's got no scoring on it. It's going to be attached like so. So we want this end piece, we want to fold that in like that, and then the next piece gets folded back on. So you end up with another Z fold, which is going to end up being at the opposite end of the card. Now, like so. Okay. So let's go ahead and do all of those. So turn your pieces so that they're facing with the score lines down this end, and we're going in, so it's just a zigzag. Okay, so just fold all of those the same. I'll give them all a burnish when I'm done. Okay, that's that. And so that's how we get that quadruple mechanism there. So now what we need to do is we need to glue our white strips to our base card. Now the easiest thing to do first is to glue your top and bottom ones first, and only glue this end, okay? Now if you want, it's easier for these top bits to just put the glue on the card base, so that, because you're not exactly sure how far along to put the glue, so it's easier to put it on that way, okay? So just make sure that's all lined up flush with the edges, not leaving any borders on these. So now we'll do the bottom one, and the reason for that is that we're not measuring where the spaces between all of these, so we're just eyeballing it, so it's much easier to work it out when the top and bottom ones are in place. Okay, so make sure they're really well stuck. If you're using a liquid glue, don't proceed too quickly to the next part until they're really, really well down. Now, what I like to do now is just put them in place. And this, then I can fiddle with the spacing. Sorry, I'm just checking. Oops, that needs to be muted. There we go. All right, I can fiddle with the spacing and get them just seated in the right spot to give me a basic spot. Now we can still put the glue on the back of these, and just make sure that don't go down as far as wide as the this, and you'll be right. Just go to part way along and get that on while leaving that one in place. Okay, making sure that's all as straight as you can get it. And then we can glue the last one on. So as you can see, pretty easy. Just, you know, this kind of step just takes a little bit of carefulness to make sure everything's... Now I can already see that spacing is not spot on, but it is close enough. And alrighty, so now we will stick, before we actually glue these ends down, we are going to stick this piece on the front panel. Now I have not left any border around that. It is because if I'd have left a border, you'd see the edges of all those white bits, and we don't want that. So I have cut that precisely the same size. So it's very easy to line that up because you just... And no, you don't need to leave a border, so that is there. However, with these strips, I did leave a nice white border. So if I just test that, if you test it before you glue it down, you'll see, now I didn't cut that short. Oh, sorry, I've got two pieces there stuck together. So there we go. You can see how much of a border there is before you put glue on it. So it gives you a better idea where to put it when you're gluing it down. Again, not too close to the edges with my glue. And see how it's easier because we haven't glued down. Just needs to slide a bit more. Here we go. Because we haven't glued these ends down, it's much easier to stick those on. You could do it. You could do it before you stuck the white pieces on. It's entirely up to you. This is just my process. I like to get all the base bits together first. And actually, I didn't, now, don't mind me doing this bit down here next because I'll explain it in a second once I've got that lined up properly. Okay, the reason I did that was on this card here, when I cut these strips and glued them on, I actually was really careful to glue them on in the order that I cut them. So the pattern is actually, you know, carrying through. No one's going to notice. I just thought it was a cool thing to do. So, and I just noticed, I didn't look at the top piece, but that piece there belongs with that flower, those two flowers. So let's go with that, hey? And if you haven't done that, as I say, no one's going to notice. It's not that important. Okay. And last one. Oh, gosh, I love this paper. I love the reds, I love the gold, oh, I love everything about it. There we go. That's all of those done. Now we can stick these down. So very easy to tell where you put the glue on these pieces. So it's just all on this flap here. And it doesn't matter what order you glue them on, but just be careful to make sure the top and bottom are perfectly lined up with the side and the top of the card. That way you know that, and actually maybe it is a good idea to do the bottom one next, and that way when you do the middle ones it's a bit easier to see where they're supposed to go, because the card flops around a bit, so it, you know, that if you get that a little bit, if you get these bits a little bit off when you glue them down, then these are going to be, you know, bent a bit. So just be aware of that. Take your time. Look at your straight edges against the other piece next to it. And even if you do that, that helps too, because you can see that it's lined up with these edges when you do that. So that's another good trick too. I can't wait to see your finished cards and what patterns you use for what cards. Okay. So we're going down. You just let it flop first. That is actually really good. Let it flop to its own position and then just tap it down and then do that. If your glue is still wet, that will actually move it a little bit, so just be aware of that. Just might need to tweak that a little bit. There we go. You'll find that because there's so many folds and layers that when you fold it flat, it does seem to just buckle a little bit, but that's okay because it still sits flat. It's almost impossible to get it so that it doesn't do that, but it's just because there's so many folds and layers that it just wants to keep bouncing up. So now this piece here, now we could have stuck that in first before we glued those down. However, it's a good idea to wait because then that I have cut that to the precise size of that gap. So if you glued these down, if these are slightly off, and you glue it down first, it's going to impede when you're gluing those down. So it's much better to, and if they are off and this doesn't fit correctly, because it should be the exact size, then just trim it down. And if it's smaller than it needs to be, then just leave a bit of a border. Doesn't matter. It's only the inside piece which you're only going to be getting a glimpse of. There's lots of foil on this bit, so when you stick it in, it'll slip around a little bit before it dries, maybe. Okay, so that's that bit in there. Now, I've got just a piece of white cardstock for this end here. But before I put that in, I want to emboss it. So there's at least a little bit of a pattern there. If you want to, you could cut some more of this DSP and put that there. And you know what? I'm just wondering whether I might do that. But that's what this piece is for. If you can see my sample card, I have embossed that piece there. So that's what that's for. If you want to do that, use it for that. But I'm thinking, I know this isn't the right size piece, but I'm just wondering whether to use the green, so it looks like the green in the background is carrying through, or whether to use the red again. Yeah, I think I might cut a piece of that green and use that. So just bear with me while I grab some more of that paper. What have we got here? Oh, we've got a bit that size, that'll do. Actually, got another bit that size which is just a bit too small. That's all right. Okay, so this bit is, this is 4 1/4 by 1 3/4. So I will cut this 4 1/4, 4 1/4. And again, you don't want any borders around this piece so that you don't see any of those strips, edges of those strips. 4 1/4 by 1 3/4. And that should be the same size as that. Let's have a look. Oh, pretty close. Yep. Close enough. So I'm going to stick that down there. As I say, while I was cutting that, if you wanted to use the embossed piece of white, you can be embossing that while I'm doing this. For some reason, I think this, I'm just going to get my silicone mat and just pop that down in case any glue comes off because for some reason this is, oh gee, don't want it to slip that much, just a fraction too big when I've cut that. So I'll just give that a little bit of a trim. Easy enough to do if ever that happens when you're adding layers to your cardstock. Sometimes our eyes can just be out a bit. And always cut it from the back so it's easy to see. Just another little bit sticking up there. There we go. Hunsky. There we go. So that's my bit there. So see what I mean about it being easy? Once all the strips are cut, it's just, yeah, gluing everything together. It comes together quite quick then. So the next, and you've got a nice a white piece on the back to write on. I'm not 100% sure whether I put an extra layer of coloured cardstock in your kit. If you wanted to, if you don't want to write straight on that piece, if you want to put a colour matte like we did with this one, if you wanted to put a coloured matte and then another white piece on top of that. I can't remember what I did. I don't think I included that in your kit, so I won't do it with mine, but you're quite welcome to do that if you prefer, and that makes the back of your card look a little bit more interesting as well. Right, decorating the front. I've decided to use this die label out of this that comes with this set, and if I have that about there, I think I'll also cut one of these bunches of flowers. So I will grab one of those to use. If you want to use that bunch of flowers, then you can, it wouldn't be too hard to fussy cut around that, so you can be doing that while I am die cutting mine. You haven't got to, when you're fussy cutting, you haven't got to go right into all the intricate bits. You can just leave a bit of a white border around everything, and that would still be quite okay to fussy cut, but I love, love, love when Stampin' Up do this and they make some of the die cuts to fit around that. So I'm going to get my sticky paper, and this should fit in my little machine as well. So I'll just take my time to line that up. Pardon, sorry about my head. Oops, put my lid on my glue. Okay. Now, my technology is saying that the video has ended. No, it's still going. Okay. I think just bear with me for a second. Just make sure. Yeah, no, it is still going. I don't know why it said that the video had ended. I am still here. All right. Let me know if you're having any trouble seeing me. Let me know if there's any. If it does stop, if the video does stop and it's not supposed to, just try refreshing your screen. I had that with a live video I was watching recently by someone else, and all I had to do was refresh my screen and it fixed the problem. So try that. Now I'm actually going to put more sticky across that because it's quite a big die. I do not want it to move under any circumstances. All right, let's go with that. It's such a pretty bunch of flowers. It does keep telling me that that video has ended, but I know it hasn't. So I don't know what's going on. Rid of all those scrappy bits. Let's see how that cut out. Should be fine. There we go. How cute is that? That is so sweet. While we're here, I'm also going to cut that label piece out of some white. So I'll go ahead and do that. I just need to cut that down a bit. That bit's not going to fit, is it? No. I'll see if I've got a smaller bit. No. I need to cut this bit down. Oh, where are my scissors gone? Oh, there we go. So that will fit in there. And the white will look really nice against that bright red. And that bunch of flowers looks absolutely gorgeous against that dark red too. I'll show you in a minute. That's all the die cutting I need for that one, so I'll pack that up and put that away over there. And you can see the detail around the edges of that die there. Beautiful, that shape. Love that too. All right. Look at that. Isn't that adorable? So what I thought I would do is if I stamp Happy Christmas on that, so just to make sure it fits, I'm going to put Christmas across the middle, and then I'm going to get the happy, and I'm going to stamp that separately and have that coming across there. But I just want to place this because I want to see if I can move that right to that edge and have that hanging over the tag. I think that might be the nicest thing to do. So, and then I can put my happy just coming off there somewhere. Yeah, okay, so I will do that. Get my cherry cobbler, I think, again. Put that back on the block for starters. I hope it's not my internet connection playing up, and I hope you can all see me. Once again, I'm not going to worry about the piece of foam underneath. Because that should stamp fine, and it does. Clean him off. There's probably enough spray left in this. Yeah, I think so, to give that a clean. Still a bit damp. It's getting a little bit dry now, so I will just give it another bit of a squirt. That's better. Okay. That's that one. I'll need that again in a second. So I might put that away. I'll get my happy. I'm going to stamp that on a separate little bit. And I might use the foam for this one. And I'm just going to fussy cut this one, so it doesn't really matter where except I put a blodge on there, so I'll stamp him up there. Okay, oh no, that didn't come out very well. I think I pushed too hard. Because the foam's underneath it, you don't need to press as firmly. That's much better, as you do when there's no foam underneath it. So be aware of that too, because you push too hard and it's just put a little bit of a shadow. It's just, yeah, not quite as clear, whereas that one's much better. Okay. and give him a clean again. Definitely won't need any more stuff to clean him. As I say, if it's a red rubber stamp, or you're stamping with a colour that doesn't stain your photopolymer, you don't need to go at it as hard as that. Just one go over with the wet and the dry is plenty. Okay. Oh, itchy nose, sorry. Just let me have a sip of water before I do that. Take a sip of what you've got. Let's give that a bit of a trim. Okay. Just going to follow the curve of that, but I think I'll make the ends straight. So do the curve first. Take your time. If you're fussy cutting, there's no rush. A lot of people, some people love fussy cutting. I don't. That's why I love it when they have coordinating dies, because I don't have to fussy cut. Okay, about there. All right, now let's see where we're going to place everything. I like my bunch of flowers to be overhanging this piece here. And where will I put that? I'm thinking, yeah, I don't want it up there. I think it looks looks better down there. So this is going to be a bit tricky, but I'm going to put this on, I'm going to stick this on first. Okay. Stick that flat on there. Just double checking where my happy's going to go actually before I glue all of that down. I think the happy could go up there. Okay. So there's not a lot of glue that's going to go on this flower. So we're looking at the edges of that bow and the very outside of those leaves, and just that one only goes to about there. Okay. On there, outside of the bow. Where else? Down here a little bit. Probably go in there a little bit more. About there. I'll get this just in case I misjudged that. I think I probably could have put a little bit more glue on there, so I will go in there with a bit more. There we go. Okay, happy with that. And this, getting the dimensionals in the right place is also going to be tricky. So I know that I can put dimensionals all along there, not right to the end, but that's an easy peasy. I might use the black ones again, I think. So if I put one right right there, I know that's the furthest that I can go with those dimensionals. So that's easy. Let me take that off. Put those down there. Now, before I take the backs off, we do that again. And I know I can go again over here with one more over here. That'll be underneath the flower. And the rest of them actually can go on the back of the flower, but no more than, not right across, just on these edges. Up here. There, there, and one in the middle there. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, and I can also put one here. Yeah, I think that's enough. All right, we can take all those backs off. Bit of a different way of doing dimensionals, but it really helps to line things up perfectly. Now, I think I didn't intend that to go right over there, so I think I'll move that over a little bit. To about there. There we go, and now I'll get another couple of dimensionals to go up there, but only on this end because that end is already on dimensionals, so I'll glue that end flat and I'll probably only put one dimensional on that end. Now, are these big ones going to fit, or do I need a mini? Yeah, I might get a mini, I think. I'll be able to get fit a couple of minis on there. If you're wondering what these little clear plastic envelopes are that I keep my dimensionals are, I just picked them up from Amazon. They're actually passport holders, and they come in a pack of whatever. And yeah, I find them really handy to store my dimensionals in. I can fit 2 of these mini ones, I reckon. And then a little bit of glue on the H, behind the H for happy. And Bob's your uncle. There we go. Well done. How cute is that? I could have fit the Happy Christmas as a stamp on that label, but I didn't want to. So that label's got a lot of room for, you could put your bling. I could put my bling on that label because there's a lot of room. So I could have one bit of bling up here and then maybe 2 down here would look nice. So that is that. So do you agree that as fancy and as complicated as that card looks, it's actually not? It's just a bit of fiddling, that's all. So I hope you enjoyed that last card. Let's bring them all in, clean off my rubbish here, and bring in the other cards. And let me know which one is your favourite, if you have a favourite. Move them down so that hopefully they're all in shot there. Yeah, I still think this one's my favourite, but I love how different they all are. And honestly, with fancy fold cards, there are so many options out there. If you search, do a Google search or search YouTube or Pinterest, whatever your favourite place is to search, there are so many different designs. It was so hard to narrow this class down to just 3 designs because there's so many wonderful ones to choose from. And who knows, your imagination might allow you to come up with even more ways of making a fancy fold. So as I say, please take a photo of your cards when you've finished them and put them up on my Stampin' with Lenny for Paper Crafters Facebook group. If you're not a member of that yet, you can join. Yeah, I can't wait to see what you came up with. I really hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, you have a lovely rest of the day and take care, and I'll speak to you soon. And let me know if you're interested in my Stamp a Stack Christmas card class for next month. Bye for now.